Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today we're going to be talking about our friend, the Sega Dreamcast, and specifically a couple of new titles for it. One called Ploid, and one called Rectum Soul's Adventure, but more specifically, this video will be focusing on Ploid. Before we do that though, if you guys could do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, as well as check out all the social media stuff in the description. I've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, my travel channel, etc. I appreciate the support on those platforms. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and get on with it. Yes, so if you're not familiar, the Sega Dreamcast, my favorite video game console of all time, this is the special Adam Koralik edition that a fan made years ago, and yes, I still have it. It's great. But yeah, it's my favorite video game console of all time, and it still actually gets new games every once in a while. However, the games are not made by Sega or other major developers and publishers. It's made by indie companies. Indie developers, indie publishers, people with a passion for releasing a game for the Dreamcast for one reason or another. There's different types of motives. I've done videos talking about that. But in short, there's a whole different bunch of reasons. And in this case, I think it boiled down to just ease. And so just giving their game another outlet. So this game in particular we're going to be talking about is a game called Ploid. Now as you can see, this copy is sealed. These were distributed, published by Video Games New York, so shout out to my buddy Dan who runs Video Games New York. Full disclosure on this, he sent this and as well as Rectum to me both for free for the purpose of review. So huge shout out to that. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check it out. Now, the history of this game, I'm no expert on it, but here's what my understanding is. A company called Nape Games, which is an indie developer, originally made this game for the NES. And that was going to be kind of the end of it back in 2021. But I guess at some point they got a hold of a different friend of mine named Alistair, who's a guy who lives out in Scotland. He had written some software that actually makes it relatively easy to convert NES ROMs over to the Dreamcast. So as opposed to the old school method of just dumping it onto an emulator, it was a little bit more refined. From that process, they communicated with Video Games New York. Dan had a couple of suggestions for alterations for the Dreamcast version specifically. They ran it through, they changed it, and that's it. The game was made. So in that process, once the game was done, Dan went ahead and decided to actually publish it. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up here for the first time. Now keep in mind that this is a pressed disc. This is not like a CDR. Like there wasn't some guy who just wrote this, you know, on like in his burned CD burner with a Sharpie and said, "Oh yeah, here's your game." These are actually produced in a factory, and they have high quality art and box content. So opening it up here, get rid of the cellophane wrap. By the way, there will be a separate video on Rectum at a different time. Let's go ahead and take a look at the manual, which is double-sided, so depending on which artwork you prefer, you can go ahead with that. The game itself, obviously I haven't played it yet, but it is my understanding that it's kind of a Mega Man type of game. This has to be the only Dreamcast game I've ever seen that mentions the Nintendo Switch in the manual. Ploid is the sequel to our video game Void, part of the Ploid Saga bundle published on the Nintendo Switch and Steam. It is also the prequel to our video game for Nintendo Switch, Ploid. Yeah, and then it just kind of has a bit of a story about the game and all that. But character named Omega, character named Alpha, and there's a whole bunch of different other characters throughout the game. It shows things like collectibles, it shows the controls setup, a little bit about Nape Games, a little bit about Video Games New York, and then there you go. So we'll just put that back where it was. We have obviously rear artwork. You have the disc itself, which again I cannot stress is a pressed disc. That is key. That makes it a very legitimate thing. Very cool. It's, of course, a region-free disc, VGA support, all that kind of points. So no matter what type of Dreamcast you have, this is going to run, unless you have one of the very, very late model revision 2s, but those are extraordinarily rare. Like, I'm very associated with the Dreamcast, I would think. Like, I literally make videos on every single game that still comes out for it. In my entire career of being a Dreamcast fanatic, if you want to call it that, I've only ever seen one revision 2 Dreamcast that was incapable of reading mill CDs. Point is, they're not common. So the vast majority of you out there are going to be able to play this just fine. So speaking of playing it though, why don't we go ahead, pop it in, and actually try it out. Alright, we are rolling here. So we've got the Nape Games logo. The game has multiple difficulty settings. I ultimately went with easy, and I'm going to show you just a little bit of some of the intro text. It says it's the Dreamcast edition. That's one of those examples of a modification that they made. So it's not just like literally a direct NES ROM, although ultimately, yes, it's an NES game. So the game starts off with its, you know, kind of the narration, just, you know, so you guys get a sense of it. But we'll move on. We'll actually play. So this is the first level. One of the cooler things they did above there, you can actually see they have a Dreamcast controller. Apparently that controller changes based on whatever version you're playing. So if you're playing on the NES, it's an NES controller. Switch version looks different, etc., etc. This is just the first level that's kind of a tutorial-like level, so you get the basic physics of it, how to shoot stuff, basic jumping. You know, you guys kind of get my point. Also, those little sword things, those are actually worth picking up. The little red things, there's little blue ones. I'm sure they have some sort of point eventually. The little NES cart there at the end, by the way, is how you know, finish off a level. These things, when you collect them, I don't really know if they ultimately matter. So I'm just gonna be honest, I was cutting around a lot because I found this to be very difficult. Well, I don't even know if difficult's the right word, but like I ended up dying a lot, and I just wanted to show you guys the widest variety of footage. These ladders, see how I'm falling? These are like the bane of my existence in this game. Like, you're just pressing up, and for no reason, the character will just fall. So I remember yelling at the game a few times. I had like some legitimate AVGN moments with that. As far as the actual gameplay goes, it's fine. Like, it's clearly Mega Man inspired. I find that the enemies are kind of pointless. So like, you can shoot them, like I just destroyed that thing, but if I go up here at the top, if I were to turn around and go back to the next screen, they just respawn. So it's actually in your best interest to typically just ignore the villains or the enemies, unless you have to get rid of them just to get past them. So there's not much of an incentive structure to actually stop and fight anything, which I find to be kind of a mistake. I don't know, that's just my opinion, because if like the primary threat in the game is something that's better off just being ignored, then there's not much going on. I found the level design kind of just, I don't know, generic, and I'm not trying to dog on the game. I think it's fine. But that's it. I think it's just kind of fine. On the other hand, though, and you'll see it when we get there, the difficulty ramps up substantially when it comes to the boss fights, which I was unable to do. I tried repeatedly. It's just a pain. So it's like it's a tad unbalanced. Whereas I would say most of the opponents, the villains or the baddies, if you will, don't really matter that much. The level, yeah, see how I fell? Now the characters are back. That's kind of my point. And then the ladders, you know, see, I keep falling, so you fall back into the previous map, and that kind of stuff gets a little frustrating. And here's the villain, which you're going to see me just die at, and then you'll see the end screen, because, yep, yeah. So, overall, if you want to check the game out, it's not like, you know, I'm not saying it's terrible or anything, it's just not, I just don't find it to be anything exceptional. But yeah, if you want to check it out, the link's in the description. You can pick it up at Video Games New York. Thanks you again to Video Games New York for hooking me up. Thank you guys, of course, for watching. If you guys do me a favor, please like the video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before. Check out all the social media stuff in the description: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, Travel Channel, etc. I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and of course, I will see you all later.